Sparks that I don't remember. Hold and let it shine. Fixing stars to fade away. Fixing stars to fade away. Fixing stars to fade away.
Hello, dear friends of Kabbalah International. We are with Mario. How are you?
How are you, Nacho?
Very good. You?
Very well, thank you.
Look, today we are going to deal with the subject of spiritual deviations. And we are going to start with a question and a couple of concepts that I have written down to see if we can develop them. First of all, what are spiritual deviations? And then two concepts, which are self-indulgent spirituality or spiritual conformism.
Well, first of all, when we talk about spiritual deviations, it implies that many times the vast majority are self-deceptions. Self-deceptions of enlightenment, right? That is to say, the light also deceives, it also unbalances, and the person who is in the spiritual world, who is permanently in contact with the light, can be affected at a level where his kli, his vessel, cannot sustain that light. So the person seems to be advancing theoretically, but in practice he is falling behind. That is to say, his experience is an unbalanced experience, in spite of the fact that theoretically it seems as if he is advancing. There is a kind of advancement in the light, theoretical, which at the beginning is a real advance towards the light, experiential, but then the experience makes the person dizzy by that light. And then within the dizziness, the theoretical seems like one has really arrived at an enlightenment, and there are a lot of imbalances committed there. Spiritual complacency comes from taking spirituality almost as a safety zone. Spirituality is just the opposite of the safety zone, because it is a constant growth. And the complacent person, in a way, remains in the concepts he knows, in the experience he knows. It is like a repetition of the same identity without growth. But theoretically, the BINAH informs him that he grows. That is to say, in self-complacency there is a dissociation, because there is an imagination of growth in the theoretical and a break in the experience. It is seen that the experience does not grow, but the person is self-deceived in the BINAH, believing that it does grow. Then of course what grows there is the spiritual ego, because the theory somehow enlarges the ego and the experience is totally blocked. It is curious. You have to do a cleansing in the BINAH, a mental cleansing, so that you don't think you are a finished product. I believe that spiritual complacency comes when someone calls himself a sage, or they call him a sage, or they call him a master, when the person clearly has to be an apprentice of a sage. Talmid Haham. That is, complacency comes when someone thinks he is a finished product. Although theoretically, the person deludes himself by saying that he is not a finished product, but he knows that experientially he is not making progress. He is aware that he is blocked by the BINAH for the purpose of believing that he has achieved results. Of course, one must always be a forward project. That is to say, never, in some way, a backward cumulative. That is to say, if I make a backward cumulative, for example, and I am going to use myself as an example, I, for example, always forget, Nacho, the number of books I have written. I am not interested and I don't care. I don't know how many there have been. Many times, the people who introduce me end up calculating them because I am so involved in my next project. That is to say, I am so focused on my next project that I forget about any previous results. In fact, previous results do not exist because I am in my growth process. I am so passionate in that process of growth that I do not quantify. Of course, when the BINAH comes and quantifies, we start facing a problem because the BINAH associates you, identifies you with quantification. And what we have to do is to get out of that quantification, to get out of that result. And that is why complacency comes as a finished product. One is not a finished product. You see, many times I say that in the spiritual world, The curriculum that one has to present is what one lacks, not what one is. It bothers me when people introduce me using my curriculum because it's my past. It's as if my past condemns me. Don't introduce me with the curriculum. What I did doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the project of what I want to be. So, many times I say on my curriculum, I don't know Chinese, I don't know Japanese, not the languages I know, put what I don't know. That is to say, in the spirituality of Kabbalah, we should present the anti-curriculum, everything I'm missing. So I'll introduce you to the curriculum. And who are you? I am what I lack. I'm not, it's kind of funny, isn't it? The headhunter, what he does is ask for the resume. I would send him the anti-resume. I don't know this, I don't know that. Of course, no company would hire me. But from a Kabbalah point of view, it is more important what I lack than what I have. First, that what I have, somehow, I don't have. I don't want to go there. What I am missing is the desire for my project. That is, everything I don't know yet, everything that is my future of what I don't know is much more important than what I know. Everything I don't know defines me. All the search for what I don't know is what is going to define me. Therefore, there are many people in the spiritual world who go sleeping on achievements as if they were achievements in the field of matter.
And now turning to this question, there is something that generates in me a certain concern regarding spiritual conformism that is related to self-deception, and that has to do with the idealization of the, between quotation marks, masters, the idealization of the gurus.
That is terrible.
Of course, idolatry is a phenomenon produced by the consumer. When I say consumer, I am not referring strictly to an economic issue, but to those who take concepts from a master that they find marvelous. And it is fantastic to idolize a character that in reality they do not respect.
Sure, look, I teach face-to-face and virtual classes. Now almost all of them are virtual, both in the international school and in the national school. But what I am getting at is that in the face-to-face classes, when I was teaching face-to-face courses, my groups lasted between 4 and 5 years. By the 5th year, I would dismantle them. I would make them disappear. Because after the 5th year, a process of idealization of the teacher began. In the 5th year of each group, I worked on the destruction of the teacher, my self-destruction. And I started by bringing up all the examples where I made mistakes, deviations in my life. People started to hallucinate. They say, but you did this? I mean, I would bring up all my balances. In the 5th year, the students didn't understand anything. What? If they had been learning for 4 years? The last learning was, don't idolize me, non-idolatry. So, this was in the service of my self-destruction. The problem is that every time I self-destructed, I was idolized more and more. So I didn't know how to self-destruct. That is to say, the problem of idealization is the other person's problem. One does everything to avoid being idealized, if they do. I don't know if everyone does it, but I thought about my own self-destruction so that the other person would somehow...
There you had the risk of being idolized like the Catholics idolize Jesus Christ, that you crucify yourself and...
No. But not only that, but the problem I was facing was a double idolatry. But I didn't do it with that intention.
They loved you because you flagellated yourself.
No, but I did not do it with that intention. So I said, how do I get out of idolatry? But I don't have to get out. The other one has to get out. Of course, I also have to get out, because I also did an anti-idolatrous work. But not with me, with other people.
At bottom, idolatry is a selfish construction of the person because he needs an image that sacrifices him.
He sacrifices his real personality. Not only that, but he is totally dishonest with his spiritual work. Of course he is, because what he is doing is puffing himself up and boasting. What a guru is doing, who does not destroy himself and produces idolatry in the other, is an imbalance of the guru. Let's see, the one who idolizes is unbalanced. That does not imply that you can admire someone. That is to say, I have many characters that I can admire, but I do not idolize. So we would have to talk about the division of idolatry and admiration, of course. So you can admire without idolizing. They are two different things. Beware of the idolater, because when the idol falls, he begins to hate it. Go to the other side. The one who admires you, if he sees a defect in you, doesn't have a problem. But the one who idolizes does have a problem, because the one who idolizes in some way has a deification of the master. Now, when we enter the guru, the master who self-idolizes from the inflation of the ego that he has in the spiritual field, which is an inflation of the ego rather than the ego, this would have to be analyzed with the tree of life, but I don't want to get into that. Of course, what this guru, this master shows is a great inner imbalance. And this inner imbalance of the guru is united to the imbalance of the person he idolizes. That is to say, the imbalance of the guru's ego. Sucks from the idolatrous imbalance of his followers, and his followers suck from the guru's ego, and then, of course, this is sucking each other and actually increasing the two imbalances instead of correcting each other. So, of course, how do you correct it? Well, the other one has to stop de-idealizing, and the teacher has to stop inflating his ego. What happens is that in general, the teacher who inflates his or her ego not only has an individual problem with its growth, but also has a weakness in his own identity in terms of content. That is to say, it is not related to a confidence in the contents he knows. Deep down he distrusts himself. Otherwise, he would not inflate himself. Someone who is inflated is not sure of his self. That is to say, he is a weak self. The guru who inflates himself has a weak self deep down. That is why he needs to be idolized. Therefore, what that master is showing is a
self-esteem problem.
It's a self-esteem problem. It is a problem of self-esteem. And it is curious that this teacher, because of his good oratory or whatever, is idolized. This always ends badly. This always ends badly because it doesn't have a lot of trajectory. Marketing cannot sustain it, because people come and go. They come in and they go out. There is no way it can be sustained over time unless it is sustained on the imbalances of the followers. I mean, if that is sustained, is that the followers are unbalanced from following an unbalanced. But well, you know that in the human species throughout history, we have followed many unbalanced people.
But there is also a question that has to do with the sense that we talked about before, the sense that many people find in idolizing and then defenestrate, a sense that feeds back on itself.
The person who idolizes is highly dangerous. He is a potential Judas. One must be very careful, because when he leaves the idealization and passes the de-idealization, he passes from love to hate. That is to say, the idol is either deified or hated. You cannot be in an intermediate situation. That is why it is better to destroy it, because if you don't destroy it, they can hate you or they can idolize you.
That's right, Mario. Well, it is very interesting, and I think that this topic will give more possibilities because I have some more things here.
Of course, we are moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.